Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am Balaji. Today I will be sharing my thoughts and views on topology optimization for 3D printing. And I will be discussing the basic process, how to perform this topology optimization uh, using Altair Inspire tool. So, like before getting into this topology optimization, as you know, the sessions whatever we have ahead or whatever we have previously, so those are basically related to additive manufacturing. So in additive manufacturing, it's not only regarding fabrication, it's not only about the manufacturing of a part or a product. So it's a process of a design actually. It's a additive manufacturing is a portion of a product design. So today we'll be getting into the design aspects of or the design concepts which are involved in additive manufacturing and how those optimization techniques are applied for additive manufacturing. So those things will be discussed. So, coming to this introduction, I think all of you might be aware of rapid prototyping or generally additive manufacturing. So, I'm not getting into that basic definitions or basic, uh, the process of that. So, generally, to just brief this technology, rapid prototyping is nothing. It's a process to fabricate an object directly from the CAD data. That is nothing but so when we do not have any computer systems or any CAD workstations or kind of thing, so we used to make our models on a paper, layers of papers and layers of production drawings or engineering drawings or product designs. But when we got introduced into this CAD modeling techniques or CAD designs, computer aided design, so we have got a little more scope to iterate our designs, and we are very free to check the feasibility or the functionality of the devices or the product with respect to its environment. So along with this CAD modeling, we also have a CAE technology, that is something but computer aided engineering. Along with that CAE, the present trend which is going is a manufacturing. We call that CAM, computer aided manufacturing. So these terminology you might be knowing or you are aware of all these things. So coming to this additive manufacturing technology or 3D printing, why it is so much, you know, uh, yeah, an issue? Yeah. So coming to this additive manufacturing technology, comparatively, like you will not talk about conventional manufacturing, more about conventional manufacturing or traditional manufacturing. But nowadays we are hearing a lot about this additive manufacturing of 3D printing. The only reason is the fastness of the like making a physical object, the time to show your idea, the time to implement your idea and to make it a real object. So that makes this additive manufacturing very special. That's the one portion. And second one is we can design an object of whatever organic shape it is. Like for example, uh, like if you check on the screen, like you can see multiple components. Like one is an implant. So if you observe, you can't find any single primitive feature. Primitive feature in the sense like a square or some kind of cube or cuboid or at least a sphere or some kind of like you can't find any a straight line or something like that. You can't find any primitive feature in those designs. So it will be little difficult using to manufacture these kind of products or to fabricate these kind of devices using traditional manufacturing techniques. So that's the reason we have chosen this additive manufacturing, and it got a lot of scope in it. So what are the techniques called topology optimization? So called. So we are going to discuss today. It is one of the best technique like implemented, one of the mostly implemented technique in additive manufacturing. So the following, the trending things in additive manufacturing are this topology optimization, lattice structure optimization to make lightweight structures, and also the application, the design of customized and patient-specific medical implants and also the medical devices. So if you check overall, this additive manufacturing is having a very huge industrial application in aerospace, automotive. So, and in metal 3D printing, comparatively with plastic 3D printing, so there are a lot of scope and the trending things are going in metal additive manufacturing. So, today, like this, about this topic, topology optimization, you might have heard about these terminology like bionic design, generative design, AI designs, nature-inspired designs. So all this terminology, nothing but they all come under one thing, that is topology optimization or the optimization. That's a one terminology under which all this comes up. So, for example, like what all this terminology mean? And so the main goal of all this terminology is to give or to place the matter wherever required. So simply saying, not to waste the material. That's a one simple thing what we can say. For example, if you check the chassis of one of the bike in the image, if you check that, it is totally it's a kind of skeletal design kind. So if you check that, there's a lot of mass removed from that basic chassis, and at the same time, it is maintaining the same stiffness, and it is so these are the some of the terminology. Next, coming to this, okay. So coming to this topology optimization, I think I will just go to this topic of discussions, right? So today, like we'll be discussing on topology optimization, how it works, advantages, applications, and next we will be going through the software that is called Altair Inspire. I will be just giving the workflow process of this topology optimization, how to set up a model, and how we get the like results, what actually optimization happens on a design, how it happens. So coming to this basic definition of this topology optimization, uh, it's a nothing but it's a mathematical approach to optimize the material in a given portion of a product or a design. So basically what happens is when you perform this optimization technique, it will follow two things. One is the design space and non-design space. Design space is a place where you want to remove your material and optimize the mass of the object or stiffness of the object or to alter the natural frequencies or whatever. So that's the one portion. And non-design space comes like those locations are nothing but the loads, boundary, and constraint locations. So these are the two set of spaces to perform a topology. So the overall topology optimization is nothing but it's a mathematical approach to optimize the material layout in a given space. So, and also what happens when we perform this topology optimization is one thing, we can reduce the mass of the total object to improve the efficiency of that of the total system. The next one is to alter the natural frequencies, because natural frequency is one where most of the the components or the when the components are for example if you select any engine connected bracket or some kind of component, the basic failure of those components is due to yeah so the basic failure of those kind of components is due to its own is due to resonant frequencies. So, like before applying some external load itself, those kind of parts they fail. So that's the reason, like we can perform this optimization to achieve better results and better design. Next, in optimization, in optimization we have three types of yeah. Uh, in optimization, we have totally three types of optimization. One is the shape optimization, topology optimization, and size optimization. So shape optimization is where like we already have a boundary, and within that boundary we will be yeah. Is there any issue, sir? Like I can hear a lot of this. Yes. So yeah. So the first one is the shape optimization. So here the thing is, the shape, it will represent the boundary of the state equation. That is nothing but if you consider a domain or if you consider a boundary. So using this optimization, we can finalize the boundary of a product. Coming to topology, we already have a boundary. Within that boundary of that product, we will be creating, we will be removing or we will be optimizing the mass of that product by removing some portion of material or giving some kind of holes or whatever required features in it. And next, coming to the size optimization. Size optimization is nothing but, for example, considering the cross section or the thickness of a uh, a crossbar or a component or a product. So like how this thickness of the cross section can be varied. So how can you optimize it? So optimizing of that cross sectional. So instead of considering 100 dia, so we can optimize the 100 to some 80 or 85 based on the loads and the constraints given to that particular product or design. So in this overall thing, we will be discussing today only about the topology optimization, where the boundary is fixed and the size is also fixed. So here our main aim is to remove the mass from that object or from that design. So that's what we do here today. And coming to this optimization, in optimization, totally we have three types of variables. We call the two types of variables and one function. So which mathematically, based on these two, the overall results are dependent. So what actually happens in optimization is we have an objective function, one design variable, and one state variable. So what is the objective function? So my objective in optimization is, first one is to reduce the mass of the total object, or to improve the stiffness, or to alter the natural frequency of that particular product or a design. So that is my objective. So for example, here my f of x or the function, here let us consider my objective function is to minimize the mass. So for example, like I have a component in which there is a lot of mass. I want to reduce the mass. At the same time, that component has to bear the given load with the given boundary conditions, and it should have the whatever the stiffness. It should maintain that stiffness also. So that's my objective function. Next, coming to the design variable. So when those are your objective function, what is the design variable? Here in the design variable, what I will do is, whatever the geometry I have, that I will consider as a design variable. So we call that as a design space in our optimization technique. I will be showing you that what is design and not design also. And next, coming to the state variables. State variables are nothing but the structural response. So when you are, like for example, when you remove some amount of mass and when you apply the same load, so what's the response you're getting? Based on that response, again you will be performing one more iteration, or like our response. For example, I have a beam. Let us consider this table. So initially it is a totally solid rectangular table. I'm applying some loads on top of it. So here my objective function is to minimize the mass of this total block. So what I will do is I will apply the load and I will be checking the response of this total block when I apply the load before optimizing the mass. So I will be getting some stresses and the factor of safety, obviously the factor of safety. So if, for example, if you're getting more factor of safety, for example, if you get something around factor of safety as a 6, but my requirement is only 2. So you over-designed this object. So there is a lot of scope to remove the mass from this. So what you can do is, the factor of safety is your state variable. That is the structure response. And design variable is nothing but like the geometry boundary, whatever you have given. And objective function is to minimize the mass. So these are the basic three things what we have to keep in mind when we are performing optimization. So like coming to this same thing, size, shape, and topology. So you can see here. The first one is the size optimization, in which like we have a ladder or some kind of ladders kind of truss, a frame. The first one is the size optimization. In the size optimization, what we are doing is we are altering the size of that cross sections, but we are not changing the overall design. The truss or the frame the design of the frame will be the same. But only thing is we are changing the dimensions, or we are changing the size of that cross sections. That is called size optimization. Next, we have the shape optimization. The shape optimization, like you can see, we are trying out different shapes of the truss or the frame. So we call this as a shape optimization. So when you have one initial shape, you will be performing an FE analysis. So you will be getting a perfect, like particular response for that shape. And if it is within your yield limits or material yield limits or material requirements, we proceed with that. Otherwise, we can go with other shape. So if you consider the second model, it is taking very less material, and like if it is achieving the required result, then we choose the shape. Second one is the shape optimization results. Similarly, the topology optimization, like we have three structures again here. If you observe the first, second, and third, the first one is a very minimal kind of structure. In the second, you can see we have reduced a lot of not lot of, like we have reduced the number of bars in it, and we filled that one with another material. So, but there is a little chance of vary in the stress or the stiffness of the total design. So, in this way, three types of optimization techniques were used or applied or considered. So next, let us get into topology optimization. So, in topology optimization, as I said, when you want to perform optimization on a particular design or a product, two things we have to consider. One is design space and non-design space. So what happens in design space and what happens in non-design space? So what are the loads, boundary conditions, or any constraints or any supports you are giving? We give all those constraints or loads or boundary conditions in non-design space, and where from the portion where you want to remove the material or from the portion where you want to you want to check the response of the total product, or where you want to improve the design. So we call that one as a design space. So for this particular block which is on screen, you can see two things. The blue colored one is a non-design space and green color is a design space. Obviously, there are the other this pressure and boundary conditions were applied on non-design space. So when I perform topology optimization in this similar way, what happens is whatever the design space is there, that one will be used to remove the material. The portion of the material in the non-design space will remain as it is. So that's how this optimization things works. I mean, I'm not getting into any mathematical kind of approach for this optimization. If required, you can just go through some of the mathematical approaches. Like we have several mathematical approaches for this optimization. So today we'll be just concentrating on, like I will be giving an idea on process of or workflow of this optimization in Inspire. So next, that's overall what happens. Like we have design and non-design space, and when you apply the loads. So when you apply this optimization technique, simply what it will do is it will remove some material from the design space and it will give you a optimized part or optimized design. But actually, what happens in the background is like in the chart or in the slide, you can see there is a virtual design. That's a basic design. What I will do is, first of all, I will perform FEA analysis on the virtual part. I will be getting some results. So from that results, what I will do is, I can consider the stress response, I can consider the strain energy response, or I can consider the displacement response. Based on that, so wherever there's a less strain energy or wherever there's a less stresses, so what I can do is I can remove some portion of material from that location. So that's what this optimization algorithm does. So what it will do is based on that, yeah. So based on that FEA results, it will consider those FEA results as a response. The previous mathematical condition, you can consider them as a g of x. Those are the response of the structure. So based on those response, what it will try to do is it will try to achieve f of x. That is nothing but our objective function. For example, if I try to reduce the mass of this whole object, what it will do is it will remove some portion of the material from low stress regions and it will perform the same FE analysis again. If it is achieving the required desired results, like if it is within the stress limits, if it is within the required natural frequencies, then that shape is optimized. Whatever the material removed, that one is considered as the optimized shape. and that optimized shape is further taken for this smoothing, and after smoothing again an FEA analysis is performed on that smoothened part, and we validate the final part of the total smoothing of the object. So again one more FEA analysis is to be done, and over that we have to perform the on the optimized part we have to perform the FEA analysis again. So that's a simple cycle of this topology optimization. So once again, like I will repeat this. So initially we'll be having a basic questionnaire design. So on that we'll be performing FE analysis. So it can be a linear or non-linear FE analysis. Today, like I'll be just showing a simple static linear analysis. So like after that, like wherever there's a less stress or less strain energy regions are there, from those portion, like material will be removed, and that portion of whatever the remote, the remaining part. So on that part, the same loads and boundary conditions were applied, and the FE analysis is performed again. So if that design is within the required results or required within the requirements, then we consider that optimized design and we proceed for additive manufacturing, or if possible, we can also go for the traditional. So next, coming to the advantages of this topology optimization. So one is a material reduction. So material reduction, like when you consider some components, uh, especially in the application of medical or aerospace or automotive, or even in space, you can see some of the material, some of the products, they design, like the design will be the one, but the requirement will be in batches. So for example, like for this particular bracket, what you see on screen, so this bracket, the requirement of this bracket is only 10 quantity. So for the 10 quantity, instead of making some, like instead of choosing some casting process or choosing some tooling process, we can simply go for 3D printing. So the number of quantity is less, and at the same time, we can achieve the desired, whatever the results we get through traditional manufacturing, we can achieve the same results in this. And also added advantages, like we can optimize the weight of that object also. So that's one of the application of this optimization. As I said, like it is having a very good application and very good advantage in metal additive manufacturing process. The next one is a shortened design process. So for example, for this particular bracket, so after mentioning like you have to perform, so you have to drill hole, or like if you want to perform some sanding or grinding or pouring, so or like some finishing process. All these process, like what are the process we have, we can avoid all these process, and we can simply get the final output in 1 or 2 steps. So like basically when you follow traditional manufacturing process, you'll be having certain steps. Like one is after procuring the raw material, you have to make it a shape. So after shaping, like we'll be taking out the desired shape of from that raw material. After that, like we have to choose a different tool process. Like once we have to choose a milling process, once we have to choose a turning process. So there might be this kind of different process, but in additive manufacturing and using this topology optimization, we can reduce all those process, and we can come down to very minimum process. And next is the maximum performance. Obviously, as I said, like when you are trying to do this topology optimization, you will be performing a FE analysis. That is nothing but a virtual analysis on the product. So based on its original or the functional conditions. So because of that reason, like obviously you will be achieving the perform. I mean, the whatever the object you will get from that workflow, it will have a good performance and efficiency. And next coming to the minimum supply chain. So minimum supply chain is nothing but, so like instead of when you want to prepare a product, like you have to follow a lot of shop floor we have to follow some shop floor practices. So we can reduce all those things using this additive manufacturing technology. So so as I said, like applications, so many of you might be aware of these things like aircraft structures, lightweight frames and structures, and medical processes and implants. So like basically this medical implants, this is one of the best application of this additive metal additive manufacturing. technology. In medical, like if you observe, like we don't have a similar faces or we don't have similar hands or legs or kind. So every implant you are designing for a patient, it is totally customized and it is totally different. So till now, like what are the traditional approach the medical field members like doctors or surgeons are following? So because of this, okay, yeah, yes, thanks for giving this annotation. Yeah, so these are the like hip implants you can find, and like in the starting slide, if you observe, there is a one. So if you observe, this is the one implant which we designed and fabricated. So this implant, if you observe, like it is totally optimized with less weight, and at the same time, this kind of implants we can't proceed for. We can't make or fabricate this kind of implants using uh, traditional manufacturing kind of milling or turning operations. Those kind of operations are not possible. I mean, we can't perform those operations to get this kind of results. So the thing is, using additive manufacturing, this metal additive manufacturing approach, we can design that kind of patient specific medical implants, and that patient specific medical implants can be fabricated like using these kind of techniques called topology optimization techniques, where we can reduce a lot of weight. So in this particular image, you can see it is a kind of mesh structure. We call that as a lattice optimization. That is a next thing of the topology optimization. Once the topology optimization is done, further we go for the lattice structure optimization. So we can say it is a little advanced, and it is one of the trending thing in additive manufacturing. So next we'll get into software. Like I will be opening up Altair tool, Altair Inspire tool. In that Altair Inspire tool, like I will be performing some operation. Sorry, I will be showing you the workflow how this optimization is done on a simple example. And yeah, like meanwhile, if you have any queries or if you have any, just you can chat. You can put those questions in the chat box. Otherwise, you can just unmute your mic and you can ask. I hope like whatever the things I'm giving, like it is useful, and just want to open some files. Yeah. So I will be sharing you this. Yeah. So I think my screen is visible to everyone. Yeah. So I just opened up Altair Inspire. This is a tool from Altair company. So this is one of the tool which is mostly used for the optimization, for product optimization, for even assembly optimization. I mean, assembly optimization means like when you have some dynamic components like you can perform multi-body dynamics, and based on that analysis you can perform the optimization. You can perform optimization on single object or component. So like that, we can use this tool. So today I will be just showing you the basic workflow of this optimization. I will be not covering all the options which are available in the in the return. So like after completion of this thing, like you can just ask me what are the queries you have. Like I can show you, or I can repeat the process once again. And so this, I suggest like you can just download this tool. You can get the trial version of this tool, and you can just get the hands-on on this techniques, optimization techniques. So like once opening this tool, so once opening this tool, like we'll be getting like a lot of features like geometry, polymorphism, structure, like motion, manufacturing, and build 3D. So I will be just giving a small review about these tools. So first one is the geometry tools where we can create CAD models, or where we can edit the existing designs. And next we have the polymesh. These are the tools where we can like edit the mesh data. That is nothing but STL data. Next we have a polymesh. Even this is also these two tools we use to edit the STL data. STL data is nothing but the basic triangulation language. We call it as a standard resolution language or standard triangulation language. That's also acronym available. So whatever the STL file you get for 3D printing, it will have a lot of it is a mesh data actually. It will have a lot of triangles in there. So you can edit those triangles to get the need and required shape and then structure. Next, we have the structure. In the structure, we will be like if required, we will be giving these constraints while performing FE analysis. So when you want to perform a small like you want to apply some pressure load and constraints, and you want to perform an FE analysis. So we have a loads over here. So when you want to give some displacements, when you want to apply gravity load, when you want to give some temperature loads. So those kind of loads you can apply on that particular product, and you can perform the FE analysis. And beside that, you also have some non-linear analysis required stuff like contacts, non-contacts, connectors, spot welds, joints. You can also create the bolt joints in this. You can create the fasteners. So uh, like these are nothing but the basic uh, material and the design properties we have to provide for an object whatever we have designed. And next we have the material properties. We can assign the material properties for that object. We can assign the mass and then even the coordinate systems. So that's the one option we have here. So now what I will be doing is I will just open up a small example. I have one bracket here. So I have one small bracket. So what I want to do is I want to optimize the mass of this object actually. So how this happens is like for example, that's a problem statement I want to show you here. So this is a problem statement I'm considering. In this, the first rectangular box you can see like all of them are the material properties. So we have a Higgs modulus of 200 gigapascals and Poisson's ratio and Q stress and density of that particular material. And next is the constraints. So if you check the constraints, those are our objectives, like we have to follow. One is we want to minimize the mass. That's our main objective. But conditions are the minimum feature in the object or after optimization. The minimum feature size should be 0.025 inch and minimum wall thickness. If there are any walls, the minimum wall thickness must be 0.045 inch. So these are the two constraints I have to follow. For example, just imagine like after performing optimization, it will remove some amount of material. So if it is more than like if it removed the material a lot and it is maintaining a wall thickness of 0.03. So like it is, oh, we are not following our constraints. It is removing the mass of the material like more than required. So that's the reason in every kind of optimization we will be keeping these kind of constraints in our design. So for this particular design, the minimum wall thickness should be 0.045 inch. And next we have the loading conditions. So on that particular object, these are the kind of loads what we have to apply at the end of that bearing, spherical bearing. I think, oh shit, I haven't shared with the wrong statement. Yeah, so once again, I'm just sharing the problem statement. So these are the material properties, and these are the constraints, and next we have the loading conditions. So we are applying these properties and these constraints and these loading things on that particular bracket. So, uh, sorry. So the load will be applied at this end of the spherical bearing, and at the bottom, like I have four locations. These are my boundary locations, and material properties like I will be applying as given. Otherwise, I will be selecting the available materials in this. The first thing what I'm doing is the first step in performing topology optimization. We have to check for design space and non-design space. So here, what I will do is I will consider two portions. One is at this bolt location, and another is at this loading locations. So what I will do is I will keep some amount of material at this bearing location and then bolt location as a non-design space, and other than that portion, I will be considering as a design space. So I'll be using some of the tools available in this Altair. So if you see, what I've done is I've just selected two portions of, there is a tool called partition. Using that partition tool, I'm selecting some portions where, so I'm creating some portions. So where I want to be considered as a non-design space. So this, oh, it's taking a little time. So it is taking time. So what I will do is just close this operation and then select again. Yeah, I will just close this application and I will reopen the screen time. So just give me. Check the screen. So I've just opened a step 5. I have a bracket file I just opened. Yeah, I opened it. And in this, I want to prepare two things. One is the design space, and there is a non-design space. So to perform that, like I have an option called partition. Using this tool, what I'll do is I will differentiate two parts. Like I'm just setting up the units here. That is into mm, and I'm selecting few portions like where I want to. So, okay, let's let it- I think this time it should work. Yeah. Uh, yes. So, like I just have another file where I have prepared this. So, if you observe here, so you can see some of the portions which are partitioned from that this green colored object. So, this is a two locations. These are two locations, and there are two other locations here, and this is another location. So, if you observe this green colored portion, it is a design space. So, when you apply the loads, when you apply the supports and then constraints, and based on those constraints and applied loads, the first step what it will do is it will perform FE analysis, static FE analysis. After performing all that, based on that results, it will try to apply the optimization algorithms and it will remove the material from the design space only. It will not even touch any portion of the non-design space. So these are the portions which we decide and we create manually, like of for whatever the product is we design. Not only this bracket, if you have any other object, so in that object also we have to give these two. One is a design space and the non-design space. So how to create this design and non-design spaces? It's a basic kind of CAD modeling, but in this you can find some other tools like push, pull, mirror, scale, and boolean operations, even the partition tools. So using those tools, like we can make two parts. One is a design and non-design space. So after creating those things, like I have loads, I have to apply loads and boundary conditions. So to apply the loads and boundary conditions, like I have structure here, I will get into the structure menu where I have the supports here. So supports are nothing but like, I'm just I will delete this to show them again. So I want to apply some supports at this nothing but the constraint location at these 4 volt locations. So what I will do is I will get into the supports option where I will just select the surface where I want to apply. So here I'm selecting it is so suppose select the portion wherever you want to apply. So what I've done is I've created 4 support structures. So the degree of freedom at these locations will be 0. in all XYZ translation and rotation. So that's what I've created. Next, coming to the loads. So here I have loads option, that is the force option. So like the options which I have already created in this particular design and whatever I've considered. So it is of 5556 newtons. So based on the, so I'm just sharing the content to you, like we have a problem statement that, yeah, we have a problem statement here. So a load of 1250 pounds applied horizontally and 1875 pounds applied at 45-degree horizontally, so from horizontal, and load of 2500 pounds applied vertically. So these loads, I've just converted them into newtons and I've applied them. Yeah. So, like I've converted those loads pounds into newtons and I've applied. So, for the application of the loads, I'll simply again we have the same force option or the load option. So, we'll be selecting that force option, and wherever we want to apply, we'll be selecting that location. Here, I want to apply at the location of the bearing. So, I've selected the bearing location and I've applied 5556 in vertical y direction. So, similarly, I have vertical y direction and force is of in x direction, and this is at 45 degree from the horizontal. So that is 1120.55 newtons. So I have applied loads and the boundary conditions were given. And next coming to the material property. So if you consider on the left side, you can see the object browser where you have the different parts of this model. So one is the design space and another are the non-design space. So this is whatever I just now I've hidden, that is a design space. So further, the material I'm considering is here I'm considering randomly like a steel AISA 304 material. Similarly, even for the non-design space also, I'm considering the same material for AISA 304 even for the non-design space. And yeah. So the same material is applied. Yeah. So material is applied. And next one, initially we just created design and non-design space. We have separated that and we applied the loads. But actually we have to specify to the tool like which is non-design space and which is design space. For that, like I'm just selecting a particular object like for which I want to apply the design space. I will right click on that. Here we have a checkbox that is design space. Like it is already checked. So if you check this one, it is not checked because this is a portion which belongs to non-design space. For example, so this bearing location. So bracket box. So this is a non-design space. So I haven't selected that. I haven't checked that box actually. So I will again select it. So in this way, like for first thing, we have to import the assembly. We have to differentiate the design space and non-design space. And later on, we have to apply the material for that. We have to select the design and non-design space for that. And next, we have the load cases. So where we can just get into the supports and the loads, and we can apply the boundary conditions and the loads at the required locations. Not only the force, we also have the pressure loads. I mean, we can apply the pressure. We can also give the torque also. And besides that, if you have any temperature related loads, we can also give temperature loads also. So after giving all the things, the next thing what we'll be performing is a basic static FE analysis. So here we have a FE analysis run. So what I will be doing is I will be selecting. I will be selecting the object analysis, and some name is given. Like I can say it is static FEA. And like if you want to perform model analysis for this particular object, you can. So the thing is like what's the need of this model analysis? As you know, when we perform model analysis for a particular component, it will give its own natural frequencies. Like if you request initial 10 modes, it will give initial 10 natural frequencies of that of that particular product or component. So as I said in my initial slides, some of the components will fail due to the resonant frequency itself. There is, for example, like we have seen many of our automobiles or bikes even. you can see some of the components will fail after a long time, after a long period. There will be no external load or any impact load will be applied on that components. But after some time, like they will, they will lose its strength, and they will fail due to the resonance or the vibrations of that object or from the engine. That is due to the resonance. So when you know the resonant frequencies which are raising from the engine or from the support structures, and you want to alter that frequency, resonant frequency, which is a frequency of this particular component, then you can request for the modes and you can alter that initial resonant frequencies. So that's one of the technique what we can do using this optimization. So here what I'm doing, I'm just performing the static analysis. I'm not giving any, I'm not requesting any model analysis in this. I'm just checking the load cases. So I've created a load case one where I have 3 loads and then 4 supports, nothing but the boundary conditions. So for that, like I've applied this one and I will be just running the analysis basically. So it will take a little time for that. So I'm just performing static FE as of now. It's not an optimize, it will not optimize, it will just give us a static result. So based on that results, next optimization algorithms are applied based on that response, and it will give us the the results, optimized design results. So it will take a minute or two. So meanwhile, if you have any queries, uh, you can, I mean, you can unmute and you can ask me. Otherwise, you can just ping me on chat box, in chat box. Any queries?
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes. Now it is audible. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Naresh.
Yes, sir. So my question is that, so after the optimization process, so it will give us a, it will give us a new CAD model. So where the
Yes.
material got removed, and the new developed CAD model will be like, it will be like uneven, sir. It will be like uneven, right, sir?
Yes,
So
yes.
we have to remodel it by using the polynopes option in the alter inspire, if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
actually,
yes.
yeah, sir. My question is that how do you control the polynopes?
Yes. See,
Because sometimes the radius got increased, sometimes the radius got decreased. So where we
yes.
have a lot of problem in controlling the polynopes. So how do you control the polynopes, and how do you control the radiuses in particular places? And one more thing,
Yeah.
while joining between two elements, like joining between the gaps, so how
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
strengthen the joint? So
Yes, yes.
because when we are printing the product in FDM, SLS kind of printers, so it will be
Mhm.
like very low strength, right, sir? So how do you strengthen those joints? So
Yeah.
while increasing the strength of the joint, it might increase the material over the joint. It may be sometimes. So how do
Yes,
you
yes.
control the material, and how do you control the polynopes, and how do you how do you create the joints without affecting the strength factors?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So first coming to the polynerves.
Yes,
So
sir.
actually, yeah, the nerve itself, like it's not parametric. For example, if you want to create, if you want a curve or at a particular joint, you want a 3 radius. For example, yeah, like on a cube, like for a particular edge, if you want to apply a radius of 3 fillet, you can just select the fillet option. You can create a fillet radius over there. But coming to the polymer, that's the reason what I'm saying. So this polymer option or the polymesh option, they are not parametric. They are totally organic design. So what we get is we get a shape, like we get a the minimum amount of material, uh, keeping the minimum amount of material on the object. Whatever the result we get after performing optimization, we get the minimum. That's the minimum amount we can give. So below that we can't go. So after that, what happens? When you apply this polynerb option, all these things, there will little more amount of material will be added, and it will stiffen the part. Like for example, after optimization, after optimization, you will be getting a result in which the minimum wall thickness will be some 2 mm. But after applying the polynerb option, it will not be 2 mm. It will go to something in 2.5 to 3 mm. That's the reason. That is due to this NURBS option, the NURBS, the concept itself like that, like like it is not parametric. And the second one, how to control the, you're asking about the control points. If you know about the Alter, same Alter Evolve tool, like it will have little more options regarding the control points. So you have two types of control points. One is a control points where you can uh, direct control points, like you will have just you can directly drag the control points. One thing, and another one is the control points that controlled by the tangent lines of that curve, particular curve or that particular surface. So like it's nothing but a simple based on practice we can make up the structure. That's the one thing. And as you asked, like we can't provide a particular radius of R3 or R5. Like if you want a 5 mm radius, we can't create a perfect 5 mm radius at that location. But the thing is, we can use some morphing tools. We have under the same Altair itself, we have a morphing tools where you can give the range. Like if you want R3 or R5, whatever the radius, you can specify that radius. You can create a small line curve and you can project the mesh onto that line. Like that, you can maintain a parametric data on these surfaces. That's the one thing. If you ask me about the control points, we can't control them parametrically. They have to be, using the NURBS itself, using the control points, obviously, using the NURBS and then surfaces like those mesh surfaces, we have to control them. So that's the one thing. And second one, the second question is like, what was one is the Pauling mesh and can you come again for the second question? Naresh?
Yeah, sir. I just mainly asked about the controlling points only.
Yeah. And second, this is the question. Like, how do you improve the stiffness or how do you
Yes,
improve
sir.
the strength?
Joining points. Joining points. How do you define the joining points? And how
Yes.
do you like? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, see, I don't think so. Like, there will be very flimsy structure you will get after optimization at joints until unless you provide the perfect design space. See, for example, like it has to run this. For example, for this particular object, like if you give very 1 mm thickness of this wall, if you can see my screen, like if you give a 1 mm thickness of this non-designed space, and if you try to maintain a very thin 1 mm wall to this to this cylinder, obviously when you perform the FE analysis, it will show the highest stresses at this location itself. So that's the reason, whatever design space we are creating, it should have a perfect constraints. So what's the minimum wall thickness you want to maintain? For example, like if you go for a steel material or cast iron material, the minimum wall thickness can be of 4 mm. Like the 4 mm will be a little stiff for this kind of components. So what you have to do is you have to specify that constraint. So based on that, it will provide us the optimized result. Otherwise, obviously, it will give the highest stress at that joints, and then uh, whatever. I mean, there will be a lot of stress concentration at those locations.
Yes, sir. I have one more doubt. So
Yeah.
after developing the optimized product, so we'll
Mm.
convert into the STL model. So
Yeah.
after conversion of STL model, do you go under any mesh qualities? Like, do you check any mesh
Obviously.
qualities, sir?
Yes. See, for in this particular tool, Inspired tool, you are not seeing any mesh here. But actually, in the background, what happens, this FEA is nothing but finite element approach. It is, I mean, finite element analysis, where this whole object is discretized to minimum small elements, and this what are the loads, and then boundary conditions are applied on those nodes, and like it will find out the nodal displacements and the stresses, so on. So it is. So it has to mesh the object, but in these tools, like we can't see any mesh. That's the one thing. Second one, after performing the optimization, we get STL mesh. If you want to perform that STL mesh, or if you want to perform FEA on that STL mesh, the mesh quality will be very bad. Like you can find very sharp triangles. So we call them sharp triangles. To check those sharp triangles, we check aspect ratio of that particular element. So aspect ratio is nothing but the minimum length to the larger ratio of the minimum length to the larger. So what happens is, when you have very high aspect ratio, the element length will be any one side of the element length will be very high, and it causes convergence issues. Kind of what you say while performing FE analysis, it will consider that as an error. So that's the reason when you're performing FE analysis, not only based on STL or any other CAD model, also when you're performing FE analysis, you have to check a quality mesh with aspect ratio below 15 or 20. Maximum is a 20. So you should not go more than that. That 15 and 20 is also for kind of organic shapes, like whatever the implant I've shown you previously. In that particular kind of designs, we can't avoid some of the curvatures on the surfaces. So that's the reason we'll get a little more aspect ratio. Otherwise, for this kind of parametric shapes, like 10 is the maximum aspect ratio you can go. So that's one thing. And second one is the Jacobian. Obviously, you have to find the Jacobian and also the shell normals. So
Yes,
when you're performing FE analysis on the STL, STL is not a solid file. When we get the full triangular data, it is not a solid file. It is totally hollow inside. Only we'll have triangles outside. So you should also check the normals. Why means, like after performing the analysis, the results what you get is the normals are reversed. Like on one side it will show the tension result, on other side it will show the compressive results if they are reversed. So we have to maintain a uniform shell normals. I mean triangle normals.
yeah. My question is that, sir, actually, after conversion of STL, so we will directly like we'll import the STL into the one of the slicing software, whatever it may be the slicing software, will load that STL into that slicing software usually, right, sir? So
Yeah.
my question is, if the STL file has like it will not satisfying few mesh quality conditions, like maybe the skewness,
Yeah.
whatever,
Understood.
flatness or whatever. Okay. So whether these properties will affect the print quality or not? My question is.
Obviously, yeah, obviously, it will affect that. Yeah, the first thing is, I mean, whatever the things I've said, just said before,
Yeah,
those
yeah,
are for
I
the
got it, sir.
to perform FE analysis. Those
Yes,
are
sir.
to
Yes, sir.
perform, yeah, those are to perform FE analysis. For example, if you want the mesh, you get the STL mesh, and based on that, if you want to perform FEA, so that's a condition. You have to check for the aspect ratio, minimum length, Jacobian, and like obviously
Skewness.
skewness, all these things. Okay,
Yes.
so when you go for the 3D printing, so when you want to slice particular object, you have to check for the non-manifold edges. Non-manifold edges are nothing but each edge of the triangle must be shared by only one triangle. So, like consider there is a triangle with three edges, obviously. So each first edge should be shared by another triangle. If the same edge is shared by two triangles, then it is called as a manifold. So we call that as a manifold error. So first thing we have to check for the manifold and non-manifold edges in our STL file. So how to check this is, we have a lot of tools. One is NetFab, Autodesk NetFab, otherwise Autodesk Mesh Mixer. In Autodesk Mesh Mixer, you can't see any particular highlighted manifold, non-manifold. But in NetFab, you can check all the manifold and non-manifold edges. That's the one thing. Second one is the holes. So why you get the holes is like when you're making up the quality of the, you're preparing a quality mesh. So sometimes what happens is like we will be removing high aspect ratio elements, or by automatic quality checks, these kind of elements will be removed. So those forms are holes in the material, in the component. So that one should be filled. That's the other one. And the second one is, for example, if you have any one of these errors, the slicer tool, even Cura, Flash Print, or if you take Simplify 3D, whatever slicer it is, it will throw you an error like it has some non-manifold or manifold edges. It is having some holes. It will throw you an error. It will not perform any slicing operations. So if you want to clear them, you can use these tools like Autodesk Mesh Mixer or NetFab, even the Mesh Lab.
Yeah, yeah, I understand I understand it, sir. But I didn't get the clarity about what my question is, that whether mesh qualities, the what are the seven types
Yes,
of mesh qualities are there. So
those do
if
not
these
affect
mesh qualities,
anything. Yeah, those do not play any effect on 3D printing.
okay, sir.
If
Yeah,
your aspect ratio is 1000, I mean, if your aspect ratio is 100 or whatever, it doesn't, 3D printing slicer do not bother about it. Like it will just slice the object. That's it.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned earlier that regarding the slicing, like even though if the CAD model has non-manifold or manifold edges,
Yeah,
non-manifold or naked or whatever the edges that it might
yeah,
have. So you
yeah,
mentioned that Cura or Netfab or like Cura, FlashPrint,
yeah,
Slice 3R, and
yeah.
one more slicing tool, KeySlicer. So we have so many enormous tools. So I have
Yes,
been
yes.
working with all these tools. So when I'm working with all these tools, there are few software which are not even considering these errors.
Yeah,
So
it
there
will
are
be.
few slicing software. Those are not at all considering these errors, even though the complete open face, even the slicing software have complete open face. Still, it is reading that CAD model and it is slicing perfectly, sir. I have seen in Slice 3R actually this
See,
phenomena.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, in slice 3R, it will do that. Like even if you consider small surface, like this is a solid object. Instead of solid object, if you just give it one surface and if you ask it to slice, it will slice with the one, whatever the nozzle thickness you have. Based on that, it will create one layer of wall. So that's technically what it do. But when you go for the printing, when you go for the real printing, that's not the case actually. So what happens is it will throw you an error, or else like just imagine, like when you have zero point 0.4 mm thickness wall in your design, and your printer nozzle is of zero point 0.4 mm size. So those two, I mean, it will just lay one layer of wall. I mean, one string of wall. If your wall thickness is less than that, if you when you create a surface in SolidWorks or CATIA, what's the thickness you will be giving to that? It is very negligible. It is 0.001. So it will not even consider that. But in the slicer tool, it may show that, but it will throw you an error. While printing, it will not print.
So when the wall has some thickness, it is a matter, as you said, it will happen, sir. When the surface has a hole, so it will what will happen, sir, exactly? What if
But
surface has a hole completely?
yeah, if your surface is having a hole, it will just consider the, like, if your surface is having a little thickness, for example, if your surface is having 1 mm thickness with a hole in it, it will consider that as 1 mm as an object. Otherwise, if there is any hole, it will simply reject the model. I mean, it will not slice the model. Like if you consider any, like Cura tool or whatever, what it will do is, if you have a hole, it will just slice the model into thin surface with uneven layers and uneven laying of the layers. It will just give you a preview, but that cannot be printed. If you have 3D
Yeah,
printer at your facility, you can just check that. It cannot
yeah, sir.
print that.
No, no. Actually, the thing is, so I have performed analysis, like I have performed one experiment in Cura, sir. So what I
Okay.
did is like, I have created one cube with a different STL files with larger triangles, fine triangles, medium triangles, like that.
Okay.
So on every cube, so I have removed one triangle completely.
Okay.
So when it is fine and medium, it is printing properly. When it is comes to a larger one,
Mhm.
I don't know the exactly size. What is the size? When comes to a larger triangle, when the triangle size is medium, maybe the triangle height could be around a 13 centimeter, the 13 mm also. Sometimes the triangle height will be 13 mm.
Okay.
Even the 13 triangle I'm removing, so the Cura is slicing properly, and I have printed that component successfully, sir. I have the component with me right now also. So it
Okay.
is
Okay.
printing without any kind of a problem. But when it is reaches to a larger scalar, larger triangle, so
Yeah.
it is missing some kind of a layers, and it is giving uneven slice, as you said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why it is happening in Cura usually?
Yeah. It's not about the Cura. See, each and every slicer will be running on different algorithms, the slicing algorithms.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
what you can do is you can consider that you can take that STL file and you can just remesh that in the MeshLab or MeshMixer. You can just remesh that object. Otherwise, you can just import into MeshMixer and export again. So it will automatically remesh the total surface once. So that may avoid some of the errors, like stitching. There might be some improper stitching of the triangles, which causes to give the Z point somewhere. Like once the Z point will be at 10 mm and the next Z point will be at some 9 mm, because the stitching of the triangle goes in a this serial way, like node 1, 2, 3. So there is, I mean, those are the slice algorithms, how they are designed. So that might be the reason. So once you can just remesh that object and you can check, you will get the perfect one.
So, small doubt, sir. As a, like,
Yeah.
apart from the STL files, we'll forget about the STL for once. So what if a surface model have a hole in that? So it is
Okay.
performing like that only, sir. So I have a so what I did with this STL or what I did with STL, I have repeated with the same with the surface modeling. I have created a
Okay.
cube with some certain holes.
Uh-huh.
So after certain hole, the printing layers got missing. When the holes are smaller, it is printing fine. There is no kind of any kind of a problems. It is slicing very fine and giving the results are very very good results are coming out. So when it is reaching some limit or limit, it is started missing the layers.
See, when you export this STL files or when you're performing this, even you can check in Cura also. It's a option you can find in what you call like inside settings. I don't remember exactly that. There is some settings thing. There's some threshold value. So what it will do is automatically stitch the surface if the threshold, if the gap between those surfaces or the gap between the two triangular edges is below zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 mm, it will automatically stitches that and it will proceed for the slicing. That's a threshold value you can check in Cura settings that is available. So if you have very larger distance of between two nodes or the two edges, it cannot stitch that. So you have to increase the threshold limit again. So that's the threshold value you can find in that's a threshold. Yes, that's a threshold limit you can find in that.
Okay, fine, sir. So I will check it out that. But my
Yes,
doubt is
yes.
not yet cleared because when the hole size is getting increasing at a particular time, Cura is missing the things. I don't know why it is happening usually. So I will
A
check it
hole
out, sir.
is see, it should give some support for that. You have to give some support for that. I mean, I didn't get your actually. When you're having small holes, you're saying it is printing. When it's a bigger hole, it is not printing.
Printing, yes, sir.
I mean,
Because sometimes, even though I'm not stitching the surface model also, it is printing fine because it will treat with the as you said the threshold value, whatever the threshold value that we are mentioning over. Due to that reason, it is stitching automatically. That is fine. I'm very clear about it. But the thing what happening is when the surface model has some holes or the triangles got missing in the STL model
yeah.
after particular some limits, so the printing layers got missing. So what is that limit? What will be the limit could be? Because I don't know
Oh,
that.
okay. Okay.
Actually, I haven't done all this kind of experiments. But what could be the limit? And there are few certain things very randomly affecting the printing quality, sir. Sometimes because what I usually do is after designing my component, I will go with the few tools to check the whether there have some kind of a problems with the STL model, or I
Yes,
will
yes.
check with all the mesh qualities, sir. All the seven mesh qualities, I will check it out. So even this mesh
Okay.
quality sometimes giving some kind of improvements are there and disadvantages also there. So that is what I have been working with. So thanks, thanks for the information, sir. That's very useful.
Yeah, if possible, like we can connect offline, we can just explore that problem once again, whatever you are facing, and we can solve that.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Please
So
leave
I
your
think
please leave your contact details, sir, so that I
sure,
can.
sure. I will do that. I will do that.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, actually, for the participants, like this, right now we have just given for the static FEA, and that analysis is performed. That was done. So it is giving us some results of the displacement. So we can see that maximum displacement is of 1.874 e power minus 3 it is. And like we can also check for the one misses, the maximum one misses in this, and like factor of safety, the maximum factor of safety we are having. So what I've done is after getting these results, we have option called optimize. So in the optimization, just I got into this optimization page. So this is my page. So what I want to do, I want to optimize the topology. So in the topology, what I want to do, I want to maximize the stiffness, I want to maximize the frequency, I want to minimize the mass. These are the three objectives what we can get in topology. So in this, what I've done is I've selected maximize the stiffness. So till what percentage of the stiffness do you want to maximize? And I'm selecting like 40%. So based on that input, like I've just given the run again. So based on the response, what we got in static FEA, based on that response, right now it is performing the optimization. So like it is still running as of now. So I've given like I want to maximize the stiffness to 40%, and like I've just submitted for the run. So it is. So that's how it is performing actually. Not audible. So yeah. So maybe any other questions? Hello. Sir, your voice is not audible. I heard Naresh now his voice clearly. You can hear my voice clearly.
Participants, if you have any kind of doubts or clarifications, please raise your hand or you can text your question in your chat box.
So, I think you have the next session, I guess. I will be sharing these results once it is done. You can just check the next session. Jinesh sir, can we wait for this analysis to complete? Hello? Oh. Yeah, I mean, I just want to show the result of this optimization, but it is still running actually. So, if possible, you can carry on with the next session. So once it is done, I can come back again. I can show you the results. Hello. Okay, fine. You can carry on with the next session. Once it is done, you can just intimate me. I will just show this optimized results after that.